Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yasodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Chila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Go Premanandi. Jaya Vishnupad Paramsa Privarajika Charistarang Shishimad is Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramsa Privarajika Charistarang Shishimad is Divine Grace Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shiva Sacharya Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. Glorious to the Sama devotees, all glorious to the Sama devotees, all glorious to the Sama devotees, all glorious Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Vishnu Prai Krishna Prasad Tare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne Namaste Sarvati Devi Gaurvanam Sharine Nivasasnana Prasachade Satarine. So we are starting a new chapter, I was told. Chapter 76, the battle between Shalva and the Vrishnis. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naro Chaivam Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nasta Preshu Budreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Uttamas Loka Saritam. Bhakti Bhavati, nice to key. Yeah, we're getting older, that's for sure. So, of course, today is also the appearance of Srivas Thakur, who is one of the associates or the members of the Panchatattva. And he is Narada Muni. And he's also Madhumangal. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Nimai Pandit, very young, he was, as we know, very much into the Jnana, scholarship, grammar, and all these different things. He even started a school. So one day, Srivas, seeing how such a qualified man was so wrapped up in just scholarly academics, he told Nimai that, if you could use this talent to actually become a Vaishnava, to become a devotee of Krishna, that would be so wonderful. So Lord Chaitanya, or Nimai Pandit, responded that if I get your blessings, then one day that will happen. So later we know Shivasanga is where Lord Chaitanya enacted this Sankirtan movement, and he performed many kirtan pastimes and so forth. So one particular kirtan that was taking place at Shiva's home, in the middle of the night, Shiva's son passed away, died. And as the kirtan kept roaring, Shivas could hear some crying in the room. So he went there and he saw his wife Malini and others crying for the death of their son. So Srivas said, if I hear any noise that disturbs Lord Chaitanya, his kirtan and his mood, I will also leave my life. So everyone became very quiet. Everyone became very afraid. So Lord Chaitanya kept the kirtan going and so forth, and near the early of the morning, he could sense something was wrong. So he stopped the kirtan and said, Srivas, I can feel something has happened in this house. So Srivas didn't want to say anything. No, my Lord, everything is wonderful. But others said, no, actually something grave happened. His son died. His son died. So Lord Chaitanya said, why didn't you say anything? Oh my Lord, how can I disturb you? And it's such an insignificant thing. If someone leaves his body in your presence, it's extraordinary. Just like we're all praying to leave our bodies here in Vrindavan somehow. Although we come here maybe once a year, Some of us are fortunate to live here. Others may come only once every 10 years. But this is our aspiration somehow, to leave our bodies either in Vrindavan or in Mayapur. We definitely don't want to leave our bodies in the West. It is such a degraded society, unfortunately. But for our preaching, we stay there. One day in Mayapur, there was a huge kirtan. And Prabhu was hearing the kirtan during the Gaur Purnima festival, and he was so happy. He told everyone, all the devotees of ISKCON should just come and live here. Oh, devotees were shocked. Prabhupada, do you want every devotee from all over the world to just come? Yes. This Mayapur is so extraordinary, such a wonderful. We have the Ganges here, we have Mahaprabhu, we have Kirtan. Where else? So devotees said, well, Prabhupada, what about the preaching? Oh, yes. For preaching, we have to go back. So Prabhupada expressed, when I was living here in Vrindavan, actually I was in Maya. Because everyone wants to come to Vrindavan to be Krishna conscious. But I had to go to the West to be Krishna conscious, because that was the order of my spiritual master. So if I stayed here, I was not fulfilling Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's desire. So Prabhupada perceived that as some kind of enjoyment. And then he was explaining how everyone is attracted to Krishna, but who is Krishna attracted to? He's attracted to Radharani. So anyway, in this way, Srivas expressed that. Lord Chaitanya went in the room, reawakened his son, and told him, why have you left? Why have you died? He said, my Lord, I go wherever you want. If you want, I can stay in this body, but if you want, I can go somewhere else. So this is our position. We have no control over these bodies. We think we'll stay in these bodies forever. But anytime, this body is like a time bomb. Anytime it'll blow up. And we'll have to leave. So this is our preparation. We're preparing everything we're doing. We're preparing for Nati Vidu Swartagatyami Vishnu. That at the time of death we can for Krishna. And if we can do that, we'll be very fortunate. So this is Shiva's appearance day today. Very auspicious personality that we can meditate on. And we'll hear a little bit him in his form of Narada Muni also in this particular pastime here in chapter 76, the battle between Shalva and the Vrishnis. So I won't read the summary because we don't have that much time, but because there's only a purport on the 5th verse. Yeah, on the 5th verse is a purport. And normally we don't speak so much. We wait to have a purport of Srila Prabhupada before making some comments. So, if you don't mind, I'll read through the verse in English and then we'll chant the 5th verse together. Sukadev Goswami said, now please hear, O king, a no wondrous deed performed by Lord Krishna, who appeared in his human-like body to enjoy transcendental pastimes. Hear how he killed the master of Soba. Shalva was a friend of Shishupal's. When he attended the wedding of Rukmini, the Yadu warriors defeated him in battle, along with Jarasandha and the other kings. Shalva swore in the presence of all the kings, I will rid the earth of the Yadavas. Just see my prowess. Having thus made his vow, the foolish king proceeded to worship Lord Pashupati, Shiva, as his deity by eating the handful of dust each day and nothing more. Well, maybe it was dust of Vrindavan that he was eating. So text 5. Samvara Sarante Bhagavan Ashutosha Umapati Varena Chandayanasa Salvam Saranamagatam Samvatsarate Bhagavan Asutosha Umapati Varena Chandayamasa Salvam saranam agatam. Someone else, please.
Samvatsaranti Bhagavan. Ashutosha Umapati. Harina Chandayam Asam. Salvam Saranam Agatam. Samvatsaranti Bhagavan.
Ladies? Or Bhagavan Ashutosha Umapati Avena Chandayanasa Salvam Saranam Agatam Ashutosha Umapati Nayamasa Samvatsara of a year Ante at the end Bhagavan the great Lord Ashutosha he who quickly pleases Umapati the master of Uma, Varena, with a benediction, Chandayamasa, he had him chose, Salvam, Shalva, Saranam, for shelter, Agatam, approached. Translation and purport. The great Lord Umapati is known as he who quickly pleased. Yet only at the end of the year did he gratify Shalva, who had approached him for shelter by offering him a choice of benedictions. Purport. Shalva worshipped Lord Shiva, who is famous as Ashutosha. One is quickly satisfied, and yet Lord Shiva did not come to Shalva for an entire year, because being Bhagavan, a great all-knowing personality, he understood that any benediction given to Lord Krishna's enemy would be fruitless. Still, as stated by the word Sharanam Agatam, Shalva had come to Lord Shiva for shelter, and thus to maintain the standard principles that a worshipper receives a benediction, Lord Shiva offered one to Shalva. Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurmnitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Brahmanitananda Shri Dvaita Grara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The great Lord Umapati is known as he who is quickly pleased, yet only at the end of a year did he gratify Shalva, who had approached him for shelter by offering him a choice of benediction. So here, of course, we're going to talk about Shalva and the Vrishni, but a few verses prior to that, we also heard about the name of Shishupal and Jarasandha. These actually were all friends and kings and associates. Of course, they're also all associates of Kamsa. And in this Vedic times, you needed to reinforce your kingdom by creating alliances. So of course, Kamsa created many alliances, and they also, some of them out of fear of Kamsa, they joined Kamsa, and some of actually out of friendship, and some out of familiar relationships. So like Jarasandha, he had his two daughters married to Kamsa, Asti and Prapti. And when Akrura brought, of course, Krishna to Mathura, this was an invitation by Kamsa that, oh, I haven't seen my nephew, Since he's born, he should come. We're going to have a nice festival. Of course, he had these wrestlers, Mustika and Charana and others, and his whole plan was to kill Krishna. But Krishna eventually killed Kamsa. And a funny anecdote is when I became a devotee, I read the Krishna book, and this is one of the first things I read in the Krishna book. And being a Christian, God is all love. I had a hard time with that. Because I thought, what is this? Here's God, Krishna, and he's killing. He's supposed to be all love. Not only is he killing Kamsa, but he takes him and grabs him and drags him all around the arena. And I thought, this is too much. So I closed the book. I couldn't relate to it. This was too much. But then I was still attracted. So I went to the temple, and the devotees explained to me that Krishna being absolute, his killing and loving is the same. So I was satisfied with that answer. Devotees always had wonderful answers that came from Srila Prabhupada. So of course, once Kamsa was killed, Asti and Prapti, what did they do? They ran to their father, Jarasandha. Whoa, we're widows. Krishna did an atrocious thing. He killed his uncle. And of course these demons, they were always trying to kill Krishna, but now they're thinking this is the most abominable thing that you can do. Kill your own uncle. They're not considering what they're doing, right? So of course Jarasandha attacked Mathura 17 times. And he was defeated by Krishna 17 times. But he was so determined. So he came again 18th time. But this time he came with Kala Yavana. And this particular king, he had received a benediction from his father to kill the Yavana dynasty. So he could not be defeated if he was in a battle. Krishna, knowing this, left Mathura and he went in a cave where Muchakunda was sleeping. Muchakunda was also a very great king, and he had joined Indra in fighting along with the demigods to fight the demons. And he had been 1 year in the celestial planets, so when they won the battle, he wanted to come back to earth. And Indra laughed and said, oh, my dear Muchakunda, 360 years have passed already on the earthly planet. What are you going to do there? So I'm feeling very tired, at least I can go there and take rest. So he got a benediction that he could sleep as long as he would. But if anyone disturbed him, he would burn them with his eyes. So Krishna, knowing there, went there in his cave. And he was hiding. He is known as Ranchor, one who ran, who fled the battle. But Kala Yavana was so determined, he chased Krishna. And when he entered the cave, oh, just see this coward. Krishna is lying and sleeping here. Because this is one of the rules of battle. If someone is sleeping, if someone dropped their weapon, if someone even surrendered, then you cannot fight him. So he thought, this Krishna is just pretending to sleep. Let me kick him and he'll wake up and then we'll have battle. So he kicked, but he kicked Muchakunda. Muchakunda woke up and burned. And because Kalayavana wasn't in the battlefield, he was able to be killed. And then Krishna went to Dwarka. So there's a little bit about Jarasandha. Shishupal, of course, was Krishna's cousin. Krishna was the cousins of the Pandava from his father's side, Vasudeva, and his Pandava's mother's side, Kunti. They were brothers and sisters. So Arjuna and the Pandavas, they were cousins. Shishupal was also cousin from the sister of Vasudeva. Shutra Shrava was Shishupal's mother. And Dandavakra was also a cousin from Shudevi. So they were all cousins, actually. And when Shishupal was born, he was so ugly. He had 4 arms, 3 eyes, and he didn't cry like a baby, but he made noise like a donkey. So they were so aghast at seeing this boy, they wanted to bring him to the river and let's just drown this kid. He's so ugly, such an embarrassment. But there was a voice in the sky that said, no, one day someone will put this child on his lap his arms will disappear, the third eye will disappear, and he'll be a beautiful child. So they were so happy. Oh, okay. But the voice again said, but at the same time, this very person will be the cause of the death of your child. So for years they were looking, who could that be, who could that be? And one day Krishna came. And he, of course, came to see his aunt. And he picked up the child, put it on the lap, the arms disappeared, the third eye disappeared. So she came running to Krishna, that Krishna, you are my nephew. You cannot kill my child, you cannot kill your cousin. How can you do such a thing? You have to give blessings. So he said, okay, I will give blessings. That I will tolerate 100 offense. But after that, I will not. So Krishna, knowing that there would be difficulty with Duryodhana and all that, and there were big powerful demons. So one day Narada Muni came to see Yudhishthira, and he said, oh, I've been in the heavenly planets, I've been everywhere, and some of your relatives are not well situated. So you should do the Rajasuya sacrifice for their benediction, for their blessings, for them. So Yudhishthira thought, he consulted everyone, and then he consulted Krishna, and Krishna thought, oh yes, this is a good idea. But there will be one problem, Jarasandha. He will not surrender to you. So then that's when Krishna devised the plan to have Arjuna, Bhima, and himself disguised as Brahmins to see Jarasandha, because Jarasandha was very charitable. He was very inclined to the Brahmins. So they went there disguised. But when they came, of course, Jarasandha greeted them, they're Brahmins. He made all arrangements for them, but he thought, these are pretty special Brahmins. I've never seen Brahmins with such big arms and muscles and scars and things. But he didn't say anything. He greeted them, and they were fed and put to bed and so forth. But next morning he questioned, really, who are you people? You don't look as Brahmins to me. So that's when Krishna and Arjuna and Bhima revealed who they were. And they said, actually, we've come to fight you. So Jarasandha looked at Krishna and said, this is ridiculous. You're just Ranchar. You run away from any battle. And why we remember you when you used to be in Gokul and holding on to the tails of cows and being dragged in the mud. So I don't know, with trickery, maybe by killing your uncle and so forth, you ended up in Dwarka. What things you did, but I'm not going to fight you. Arjuna, you're too young and weak. I'm not going to fight you. But Bhima, yeah, you seem to be a little bit big enough. You got arms, you got, So he decided to fight with Bhima. And of course, the idea of that was not to kill everybody, because if the king lost, then he would lose the whole king, all his army would just surrender. The king's not there, so that way, instead of so many fighting, Krishna already fought Jarasandha 17 times, and so many people had been killed. So to avoid that, he devised this means. So of course, they fought for 23 days, Bhima and Jarasandha, and every time, back and forth, Jarasandha wasn't defeated. So finally, Krishna took a straw and he ripped it in half. And then he understood, because Jara, when he was born as 2 lumps. So the parents didn't know what to do, so they threw the lumps, and later the witch, Jara, put them back together. So that's why he's known as Jarasandha. He was put together by this witch, Jara. So when Bhima ripped him apart, grabbed him by the legs, and he pulled him apart, through the parts, they came back together. He did it so many times, they kept coming together. So then Krishna, when he ripped, he threw the straw in the opposite directions. So then Bhima could understand, this is what I need to do. So he ripped Jarasandha and threw them, and that was the end of Jarasandha. So this big demon, okay, eliminated. So then Krishna was thinking now, when Yudhishthira came, he said, yes, it's a good idea. And of course, everyone was invited. And of course, Shishupal came. But he was so He didn't like Krishna because he knew Krishna, of course, was the one who's going to kill him. But also prior to that, as I mentioned, all these kings would try to get together and unite each other. So Rukmini was also a very close friend of Shishupal. And to create that bond even stronger, he offered his sister Rukmini to Shishupal. Of course, Rukmini didn't want to marry Shishupal. She had never seen Krishna, but she had heard about Krishna, and she wanted to so much to have Krishna marry her. So incognito, she sent a Brahmin, quick, go to Dwarka and give this letter to Krishna, that Krishna, you please have to come and save me. This is happening here, and I have no control, and my brother's going to marry me to this atrocious person, Shishupal. So as the wedding was about to come, and everyone was there, and Shalva, he was also there. Shishupal, of course, all happy that he was going to marry Rukmini. Krishna arrived and just took away Rukmini. And they all tried to fight. Even this, of course, was prior to Jarasandha being killed. Jarasandha tried to fight, Shalva, everyone tried to fight Krishna, and they were all defeated. And this is when Shalva took this oath, that I will kill Krishna, I will kill the Yadu dynasty, because he was so frustrated to see that his friend Shishupal had not been able to get Rukmini. So at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Shishupal showed up, and of course Sahadev, after the sacrifice, someone has to receive the oblation, the offering. So Sahadev suggested that Krishna is I don't see anyone here qualified like Krishna. He is the only one. And Bhishma seconded. I think it was, anyway, so it was seconded. So Shishupal started laughing at all this. That this is ridiculous. This coward boy, amongst all of us, this is the only person that's qualified? Come on. As we say, give me a break. Huh? So then he started laughing and started insulting Krishna and calling him all sorts of names and so forth, and said, we don't even know what caste you are, what gotra you are. 1 minute you're a coward boy, next you're a king, you're this. We don't know who you are. So, of course, the Pandavas, they want to jump Shishupal and kill him. Krishna, no, be patient, be patient. And after 100 insult, Krishna cut off his head. So that was the end of that. Now, of course, Shalva, of course, here we're discussing Shalva in the context of Krishna. But Shalva is also in the context of the Mahabharata. We know that Satyavati was married to Shantanu, and they had 2 sons, Chitangada and Vichitavirya. So, of course, Chitangada was killed by a Rakshasa who had the same name. He said that how can a mere mortal have a name like me? So they fought in battle and he was killed. So when Shalva was going to marry Amba, Bhishma felt very insulted because Vichitavirya and the Yadus were not invited to this wedding. So to atone for that sin or that neglect, he went there and he took Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. He kidnapped all 3. They were all sisters, and he took them back to Hastinapur. And he offered them to Vichitavirya. Of course, Amba was in the process of marrying Shalva. And in the turmoil and all the, because everyone fought Bhishma, but he was so powerful, he just wiped everyone out and left. But we can imagine the intensity of the event. So Amba was like a young girl, all frightened. She didn't express anything. So finally, when everything was calmed in Hastinapur, she went to see Satyavati, and she expressed that I was going to be married to Shalva. So they were shocked. Why didn't you say anything? Well, how could I? I mean, Bhishma came like a lion, So they made a royal arrangements, and they brought Amba back. And Shalva said, I'm not going to take you. I'm not going to eat the remnants of Bhishma or the Yadus. No, go back. So the poor girl had to go back and offered herself to Vichitravirya. But he said, no, I'm not going to take you. Your heart's been offered to Shalva. How can I take you? So then she went to Bhishma. You're the one who grabbed my hand. You have to take me. Bhishma said, no, I've taken a vow. My name was Devavrata, now I'm Bhishma. Why? Because I took this huge vow that I will never marry. Because when Shantanu approached the parents of Satyavati for marriage, they said, oh, my dear king, according to astrological calculation, Satyavati's son is supposed to become a king. Oh, you already have a son. He's already a prince. Because when Santanu, so he was refused. So he came back in the kingdom, went in his quarters and closed the door. And Bhishma, Devavrata was thinking, what happened? My father didn't even call me to see me. He's been in his quarters for so long, he's not doing any royal duties. Something must have happened. So he retraced everything and he finally found this Satyavati. She was a girl that would cross people from one side of a river to the other. That's how she fostered Srila Vyasadeva. Parashara Muni saw her, she was so beautiful, he took her to an island and he fostered. That's why he's known as Krishna Dwaipan. He was born on an island. Anyway, another story. But anyway, so when Bhishma, Devavrata at the time, heard this, he said, okay, no problem. If that's the problem, I'll solve it. I will never take the kingdom. I will renounce the kingdom. Therefore, her son could become king. Not so quick. Wait a minute, you're going too fast here. But your son is going to become the king. Oh, so that's another problem? Okay, I'll take a vow, I'll never marry. And for a Kshatriya to make that kind of vow was pretty, kings had many wives and co-wives and maidens and all sorts of ladies in their kingdom. So that was, and therefore he was blessed by the name Bhishma, one who took an extraordinary oath. So, coming back to Amba, Bhishma didn't want to marry her, Shalva didn't want to marry her, and also Vichitravirya. So she went to the forest and performed great tapasya. And finally the sages told her that you go and see Bhishma's guru, Parashuram, and he will change his mind. So she went, explained her story, and Parashuram came to see Bhishma and said, you have to marry this girl? No. Hey, you cannot refuse your guru? Guru Aparad, how can you say no? Just like the Kumars, they said no to Brahma, right? And then Shiva came out. Brahma was so angry. So anyway, so he said, well, no, then I'll fight you. You'll have to fight me. So they fought for 25 days, and Parashuram couldn't defeat. So he told the poor girl, nothing I can do. So she went back in the forest, seeking revenge, and next life she took birth. And when Bhishma would see her in the battle, although he was a man, he would see only a woman. And that's how later Arjuna could defeat Bhishma. He put Satyaki in front of him, and Bhishma couldn't fight Arjuna, and then Arjuna shot him so many arrows. But he had received, because he did such a vow, of course he became known as Bhishma, but Santanu also gave him a blessing, that you will leave when you desire. So although Arjuna shot Bhishma completely, filled him like a bed of arrows, a bed was, maybe not here, but in the West, a bed has mattresses, has so many springs to hold you, so he had so many arrows. So Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows, and he stayed until right up to the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. And later he advised Yudhisthira. Even Krishna could not pacify Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira was so dejected that because of my selfishness, because of my greed, so many people have been killed. So Krishna tried to pacify him and he couldn't. So finally he went to see Bhishma, and Bhishma was able to pacify. So, of course, Vichadevarya was very ill, so he died prematurely, and Ambika and Ambalika didn't foster any children. So what to do now? So then Satyavati went to see her son, Bhishma, and said, you have to, you're the heir, you're the eldest son, you foster. He said, how can you ask me such a thing? You're the very cause that I took this oath. Because of you, I took this oath. Your parents rejected my father because you wanted that your son become king. So I took all this vow. So now you're asking me to foster the children? No. So finally she requested her son Vyasadeva to come and foster the children. But Vyasadeva was very old and ugly. He wasn't a very attractive person. So Ambika, when she saw this person coming in a room, she closed her eyes. So Dhritarashtra was born blind. Then Ambalika, she became pale, sickly. So Pandu was born, and he was born pale and very sickly. And then these two couldn't become really king. One was blind, one was sick. You don't want a king weak, can't even lift his sword or string a bow. So they thought, okay, let's have another. Let's try it again. But this time they pushed one maidservant, you go. But she was very brave. So then Vidura was born. But Vidura, because he was born of a maidservant, he couldn't become king. So all along, all this is taking place, that Dhritarashtra was born blind, and he felt, this is such an injustice to me, that I'm born blind, and therefore I cannot become king. There's two injustices, two insults that I'm receiving here. For what reason? I do not know. So, at one point, Kunti got pregnant, and Gandhari got pregnant. So there was competition, because who gives birth first will become the heir, will become the king. So they were all anxiously waiting, and finally, Yudhishthira was born first. And Gandhari was so frustrated, she punched her stomach. How come you didn't come out? Come out! What are you doing in there? So it divided, and she gave birth to 99 children, Duryodhana and the others. And because Dhritarashtra was already envious that Yudhishthira would become the heir, he poisoned his son, Duryodhana, all along. And of course, Gandhari's brother, Sakuni, he was also always in favor. So Duryodhana grew up being very much poisoned by that mentality of envy towards the Pandavas. So these were all sorts of intrigues that took place and went on. And here, of course, this particular pastime is taking place, and we know that the demons, they always approach the demigods, and especially Lord Shiva, to get the benediction, as mentioned here. He's Asutosha. He is very easily pleased. And the demigods, of course, they're always giving material benedictions. And Krishna is Hari. He takes away. So if you want opulence and so forth, you don't go to Krishna because you'll lose everything. You go to Lord Shiva. But the funny thing is, Lord Shiva, where does he live? He doesn't live in a big palace. He lives in crematorium. He lives in places that are not that no one wants to go, because he's a devotee of Krishna. He's not into the material opulence. He's not into these things. But knowing the nefarious mindset of Shalva, knowing that his idea, his desires was to go and kill Krishna and to go and destroy Dwarka, he waited patiently, hoping maybe this fight don't, like sometimes, there's someone you don't want to meet, you pretend you haven't seen him in the crowd. Oh no, not this fellow. Not this person, oh no. So Shiva was like a little bit like that. Oh no, maybe this Shalva will go away. but he was very determined. Imagine you're eating just earth, dust, every day. Huh? That's the penance you take to, requires a lot of determination. I don't know if maybe he was filtering that sand so he didn't have any rocks, but but eating sand, we're encouraged to roll in the sand of Vrindavan, but we never mention eating it. I don't have much faith, I have to admit, so I don't, even when I get Charanamrita outside of ISKCON, I don't place it in my mouth, I usually just put it in my head. I have that much respect, but not enough faith. Like Prahlad Maharaj, you know, he was able to eat a cake that could kill 100 persons, you know, but I don't have that faith, so I put it on my head. But this person, he had great austerity, great tapasya to want to eat. So after a year, finally, he got that benediction that he was able to get the blessings of Lord Shiva just for Nitarius, who was at Vritasura, that he also approached Lord Shiva, that if he touched someone's head, that his head would crack. So finally, when he came, the fellow said, come on, you think you'd get that kind of benediction? Just try it. So he touched his own head and it cracked and he died. So sometimes these demons are pretty foolish. And of course, it's very foolish to try to kill Krishna, to try to, you know, to do these particular things. So he will, as we'll read on, I don't want to get into all the details, but he'll try to go and kill Krishna. Of course, at that time when he attacked, Krishna wasn't there. He was in Hastinapur, and one of Krishna's sons, Pradyumna, took over, and he attacked, you know, took on the challenge with Shalva. And at one point, Shalva, the Shalva who hit Pradyumna on the chest, Pradyumna went unconscious, was dragged out of the battlefield, then came back. But finally, Krishna comes, you know, and kills him. So these wonderful pastimes are all there, and there are a lot of intrigues and so forth, so that we can absorb ourselves. You know, the karmis make all sorts of movies and all sorts of things, and so many things happening and so forth, because that is where our minds are at. So we enjoy these particular different pastimes, but the difference is that these pastimes are purifying because they're all in relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're all in relation to Krishna. So therefore, they're meant to purify our minds. They're meant to purify us rather than contaminate us. And yeah, these are the certain things that class ends at what time? 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock. I didn't time it properly. I'm already out. Okay, questions? I hope you have, yes. Because otherwise I'll be embarrassing. Yes.
So the Mahabharata is considered like the fifth Veda, and it's recommended for even the Shudras and women. But by hearing the pastimes in Mahabharata, they're related to Krishna, but how is that I say beneficial? Just instead of why don't these people hear the real pastime? Not the real pastime, but the Srimad Bhagavatam was specifically made so that it could be directly glorifying the Supreme Personality of God, whereas you're mainly hearing about different personalities and fights and, you know, intrigue, politics, and so many things. So is that also remembering Krishna just by hearing all those details?
Well, there's two aspects to that question. One is that, why do we have all these bricks and everything? We could just have Krishna there. But we build these huge temples because people won't just come and see Krishna. They want to see some opulence, some big things. So the Mahabharata is a little bit like that. It describes so many things, and within the Mahabharata there's one chapter that's more in describing Krishna. Second thing is most people are not Paramahamsas, so they're not really that interested in Krishna. The Bhagavatam is really meant for Paramahamsas, people who've already gone. And of course we're talking about the 10th canto. So there's already 9 cantos that is meant to gradually help us understand and appreciate and adjust our mind for Aishvarya Bhav, so we can come to the 10th canto and appreciate these pastimes knowing who Krishna is. And therefore, we can value a child. If I give a child $1,000, he cannot appreciate that. You can easily exchange that for something else. Because he's a child, he doesn't know the value. But if I give any of you $1,000, you'll immediately put it in your pocket. Because you know the value. So when we're children in spiritual life, we don't see the value of Krishna consciousness. And therefore, we allow our minds to chanchala hi mana Krishna. And we allow our minds to go everywhere. We easily get distracted. And we used to call the different kinds of japo, radar japo, and dive bomb japo, and this kind of japo, and that, radar japo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, and dive bomb, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, So there were so many different kinds. But why do we allow that? We allow that because we don't value Krishna consciousness. We don't value what we're doing because we're spiritual children. So as we progress, we start seeing the value. And because we know the value of it, we don't allow ourselves to get distracted by anything else. We don't want to get distracted. So, as we progress in spiritual life, and therefore that's why the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the cream of the Vedas, because it focuses on Krishna. And as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we're not even particularly interested in Vasudev Krishna. We're interested in Nandanandana Krishna. So here is the descriptions of Vasudev Krishna, Krishna and Dwarka, and so forth. And of course, we offer respects to all that. But as the Gaudiya, our Goswamis have presented more sweeter pastimes. And even Vasudev Krishna, he's even intoxicated by, even he wants to be part of the sweet pastimes of Nandanandana Krishna. That's why when Krishna had to come, Kuru had to come to remind Vasudeva Krishna, hey, what are you doing here? You said, yadahi dharmasya glaniya bhavati bharata. You're supposed to come and kill the demons. There's no, so you've killed some, but now you got to go and kill Kamsha. Don't forget your duty. Huh? And there's a description, Gaur Govinda Maharaj describes that when once in Dwarka, Krishna saw a reflection of himself and he became so ecstatic, he became Jagannath. His limbs went in and his eyes went big and he became the form of Jagannath. So this is why a little bit why the Mahabharata is considered the fifth Veda, because it's not focused entirely on Krishna. Yes, Prabhu?
Yes. Thank you very much. Whenever we discuss the topic of Lord Shiva, it can become very confusing because one of the previous verses you were reading is referred to as Bhagavan. And of course, Shalva is worshipping him for nefarious reasons and is being described. He gives blessings very easily. The converse is also true, that he's angered very easily. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport in the 4th canto that actually every devotee of Lord Krishna, because Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava, every devotee of Lord Krishna is also a devotee of Lord Shiva. So we see this dual side to Shiva. He's being worshipped by Shalva, Ravana, Vamasura, Rikasura, all these demons, all these envious personalities of Krishna. At the same time, he is a personality as a great Vaishnava that can be approached for advancing Krishna consciousness. So how do we look at these apparent contradictions? And many people who come to Krishna consciousness, they sometimes wonder, why is Lord Shiva not here? This is not really part of Sanatana Dharma, unless Lord Shiva is part of that.
Well, just like here in Vrindavan, Shiva, Mahadev, Gopishwar, he's in the 4 different directions and he protects Vrindavan. Us Vaishnavas, of course, we can worship Lord Shiva, but we don't worship him as God. We worship him as the greatest devotee. And if we worship him, just like we honor, respect Vanchakalpatarupyascha, we offer respect to all Vaishnavas because we're seeking the blessings, not to have material opulence, material prosperity, but to develop love for Krishna. Just like the gopis, they would worship Katyayani, but not for material things, but for spiritual devotion for Krishna.
It's very subtle and very nuanced. The intention behind the invocation of Srimad Bhagavatam is for the main demigods. If it's for advancement in Krishna bhakti, then this proceeds as a good thing. Yet the opposite is true, that if the intent is not for Krishna bhakti, for material benedictions, then as Krishna tells Arjuna, this is less intelligent.
Yes.
So it has this dual role. It's always sometimes devotees get a little confused how that works.
Well, it's like in the distance, you see a forest and all the trees look green. You get a little closer, then you start seeing there are varieties of trees. They're not all the same. So from a distance, yes, all these demigods, and they all look like Bhagavan and so forth. But if you get closer, you start seeing there's distinctions. Yeah. And even Krishna, Parasya Shakti Vividaya Shriti, he has so many energies. Radharani is not Krishna, Balaram is, Balaram has his own mood, and so and that's why Lord Chaitanya comes as Panchatattva, to show the different varieties of his energies. And of course, most of the Mayavadis and impersonalists, they don't make the distinction between the Jiva Tattva and the Vishnu Tattva. And they have this argument that in the Bhagavad-Gita it says that the soul, Najayati Mariyate Vatgadachin, the soul cannot be cut, moistened by water, cut by weapons or anything. So how can the spiritual energy be divided? Then it's contradicting Bhagavad-Gita, because it's all one. Now you're saying there are many. So what is the explanation? The explanation is that in $100 or 100 rupees, you also have 20 rupees, 50 rupees, 10 rupees. There's no division, it's there. It's already included. Or when you see a rainbow, you see so many different colors, but it's already in the light. So there's no division. Krishna is the Karana Karanam, he's the cause of everything. So everything, in one sense, we're all Krishna. But there's the Anu Krishna and there's the Bhagavan Krishna. For Krishna to be complete, he has to be the smallest and the biggest. So as we progress spiritually, and if people were to follow the Shastra and the Acharyas, they would understand all these different distinctions, and Prabhupada made it, all these things for us very clear. So there's no confusion in that sense. So we understand what is the position of Lord Shiva, we understand what is the position of Lord Krishna, but in India, sometimes we call it the shotgun worship. Shotgun? Shotgun is many little pellets that are in one casing. So when you shoot that, it goes everywhere and you hit a lot of people. So shotgun worship is you put everyone on the altar. You got everyone, so you worship, someone must be pleased. You'll please someone out of the group. But our mood is Ekeha Kurunandana, we just want Krishna. And if he's pleased or not pleased, that's, it's like Lord Chaitanya, you can embrace me or you can handle me roughly. We're like, these necklace means we're dogs. And what is the position of the dog? His best quality is he's very loyal. A dog will be at the door, master looks, close the door, dog stays there. He doesn't get fed, he stays there. He'll wait until finally the master opens and feeds him. That's the quality of a dog, he's very loyal. So that's our quality. That's all we have, to be loyal to Krishna.
Thank you.
Yes, other questions? Yes, Prabhu?
Thank you very much for the wonderful informative introduction. I was writing this today about how I got involved with Japanese work prayers. I was talking about Japanese, how we had done a play. I think it may have been about Shishipala. Chichikananda was playing the name. I think it was a marvelous actor. And he was saying, of course, Krishna hadn't killed his relative, but he was going to kill entire dynasty. And so many of Krishna's friends. And then he was going to kill Krishna. And we all burst out into a circle and left. We couldn't stop him. Because it's foolish even.
Yes.
Thinking that he would kill Krishna. But the way I remember it, he was just threatening to kill Krishna. He was going to kill so many.
Yeah.
So that was Shalva?
Yeah. Shalva, finally his benediction is he got an airplane that he could move anywhere at will. And he came to Dwarka with his army. And the army started destroying Dwarka, breaking things. And he started throwing rocks, boulders, and trees, and all sorts of things in Dwarka. So his whole idea was he wanted to destroy Dwarka, the Yadus, and Krishna. Just wipe out everything as if it never existed. Of course, he wasn't successful, but that was its intent. Yeah. Other questions? Maybe, yes? Prabhu?
There's one Sanskrit verse which says, Vedi Rama Yanantara Purana Bhakti Tata Odo Ante Jamanta Jam Hari Sava Jiyate. So Vedi Rama Vedas, Vedi Rama Ramayana Purana Bhagavad, so you've got the Purana and you've got the Mahabharata, which we're talking about. Odo Ante, so in the beginning of those Shastras, and Ante to the end. Odo Ante Chamadjeja, also in the middle. Harisa Bhakti. So in all these Shastras, because Panchagoni is mentioned. Only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, is mentioned in these different forms. So, we read the Mahabharata, the wonderful culture and history. Krishna is very much involved in all that, And even in Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, by all the Vedas among you know, indeed I am the father of Veda and the knower of Vedanta. So when we read Bhagavad-Gita, that's Vasudeva. He's fighting about it too. And then we have the intimate pastimes of Krishna in the Vrindavan. And that's why when Srila Prabhupada came back from India, and he was visiting, because he was sick, he had to recover. He was visiting the Ali temple, and he was paying his obeisances to the deity. Prabhupada got out, and the conversation ensued between Dvagadij and Prabhupada. Dvagadij said to Prabhupada, I want you to go back to India. And Prabhupada says, he says, I've just come from India, my Lord. He says, yes, but I want you to go back, because you're going to build a temple that is far, far, far more beautiful than the temple you're standing in today. So Srila Prabhupada went back to India, and then the rest is history, which later on I'm going to talk about how this temple was built and how there's a preamble around the building of the temple. So in all the Shastras, Harisa Bhakti-yoga, Krishna is mentioned. Just one word.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for your kind patience. And Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.